It's not often you get a hockey person in Kansas City. In St. Louis, we talk to hockey people. In Denver, we talk to hockey people. So a Kansas City hockey, I'm a St. Louis kid, so Blues. Yeah, what hockey? How does that work in your life?
It is kind of the most random thing ever. I am getting older now, 53. When I was 8 years old, I'm from Wichita, Kansas. So Kansas City hockey, think Wichita hockey, and it's all
Yes.
consistent. So randomly, my grandmother won free tickets to a Wichita Wind hockey game. And she asked my brother and I to go, younger brother, and we're 8 and 6. And we said, "What's hockey?" She says, "I don't really know, but I got these free tickets. Let's go." And we absolutely fell in love with the game. We started taking my dad and just really got into hockey. And then that team left, and I started playing on ponds in a little bit, but I just always had a passion for hockey. And then I grew up in my 20s, and we actually got another rink built in Wichita. So I started playing adult league hockey. And then my kids got into it, so I coached them. So it's just basically turned into a crazy passion all the way around. So 5 kids, all 3 boys play ice hockey. And now I have my second son playing on my ice hockey team. So yes, big fans, big fans.
There's nothing. So I still play old man soccer, and to have a kid one day come, that's when you know that your worlds have collided too much. Is when they can show up to the old man version of whatever you're doing,
Absolutely.
which is
Well,
super
it's worked out
freeing.
really great for us, I'll be honest, because now we've injected a lot of or some youth in our lineup. So he is really fast. He goes and gets,
Yes.
I can just kind of stand there and just shoot it in. So it's really working out great.
I swear, if you had to pick, like, what's the hardest thing to do in sports, I think it's hit a baseball. Like, just like
Yeah.
from an individual
Oh,
skill. If I had to, like, a close second, it's do anything on ice skates. It's like, yeah, 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 but you're moving. So, like, all those thoughts that you have, like, I think that's literally the second hardest skill. Um, I don't know if you have
and you're moving so fast. Well, the older you get, not so fast, but like in the younger years, you're moving pretty darn fast, and there's a lot of collisions and yeah, lots of danger out there.
That's right. And as we get older, we're just trying to keep ourselves from being injured. And so, what's a little danger in our lives, right?
Exactly, just a little bit, not too much though.
Okay, so I am talking with Zack Nicholson, and he has a wonderfully unique journey from entrepreneur in residential home building to pastor and chaplain, nonprofit executive director, which is his current title for Minding the Gap. Zack, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dan, for having me. I've been looking forward to this. It's going to be an awesome day.
It is. It is. As you said, it's raining outside, which is your second favorite time. So I know this is going to be a good conversation. We're on the Sharpen Podcast. I'm Dan Cooper, and this is brought to you by Acumen. And this is about an exclusive community of CEOs and owners to help you grow the top line, optimize your bottom line, and enrich your storyline. So, as I said, you have a unique journey. It's not often that you usually start as an entrepreneur and end up in nonprofit. Sometimes we see that we see lots of swapping of that. So, give us a quick tour. How'd you get to here?
Well, I would say the last 10 years has been a completely unexpected journey. But in 1997, I started my own business, Nicholson Homes, started to build residential houses. I was in construction growing up. My dad and my grandfather was in construction. So I started a business, made lots and lots of mistakes like every good entrepreneur does. And when I finally kind of figured out what I was doing and making a little bit of money at it, I had gotten married and had a couple of kids by then. And in 2005, I always kind of want to be in ministry, right? I had that in the back of my mind, but I'm in my mid 30s at this point, had a couple of kids, had been married, and we had an opportunity to move to Kansas City. It was kind of out of the blue, but at the same time, we thought, wow, this is kind of a cool opportunity. I don't want to look back when I'm 80 years old, my wife and I, like, what would have happened if we would have pursued this ministry calling? And I thought, well, if it doesn't work out, we can always go back to our jobs because she was an accountant at a big oil and gas company in Wichita, Kansas. And we just thought, let's go for it. We want to teach our kids to be just go for your dreams and live life to the fullest. And so, like I said, we had a backup plan that we would just go back to work in a couple of years if it didn't work out. Well, it's 21 years later and we haven't had to do that. So praise the Lord. So we came to Kansas City. I was on staff at a church here in South Kansas City. And I did almost everything that you could do at the church. I was our small groups pastored, community life type things. I started the men's ministry at our church. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but as crazy as it is, we now have 5 kids. And although I have 5 kids, I didn't really consider myself a children guy. Like, I was not in youth ministry, anything like that. I love my own kids, but I wasn't thinking children at all. And in about 2014, 2015, my boss sent me to the Grandview Middle School, Grandview, Missouri, here in South Kansas City. It's a suburb. And he said, we're partnered with this organization called Caring for Kids, and I need you to go there to be our representative. I'm like, great. What am I supposed to do? Our kids were homeschooled, and then we sent them to private school, so public school was not on our radar. Kids stuff was not on our radar, but he sent me there as an envoy, and I just was floored by the people that I met there. And it really started to shift my perspective and started to get me to like thinking, or eventually 10 years later, to Minding the Gap. But I started to see the amazing people working in these public schools, the hard work that they're doing, so unappreciated sometimes, just the difficult circumstances. And then I heard about the literacy and reading crisis. That's something that I heard about on the news, and it's one of those things you hear about it, see some statistics, and think, oh, that's just terrible. Man, somebody needs to do something about that. And okay, what's happening at Men's Ministry Saturday? But as I touched it and was around it more, I just saw the hard work, like I said, that these teachers are doing, and what, as a Christian, like we are called to serve the least of these. And so I started, long story short, just started recruiting mentors from our church to go in and just help students read. We started to do activities with the principals, like, what can we do to be a blessing to your school? We would do like attendance parties and these different things. So long story short, over the course of the next, 5 or 6 years, I started to get slowly more and more involved in the schools. And then in 2020, I heard about this Bible club that was happening in a local public school put on by Grace Point Baptist Church. And I thought, what in the world? We're teaching the Bible in public schools? I've got to be a part of this. Tell me more. So I recruited a team to help out this church. And then right around that time, I started really feeling the sense. It's like, we should have some sort of nonprofit that combines all of these things. So tutoring and mentoring, like staff support, and then a Bible club in public schools. And so it wouldn't just be one church doing this, but like, what if we brought together nonprofits? What if we brought together churches and the whole entire community to surround these public schools and really try and make a difference? And so in 2020, I started Minding the Gap, not thinking that that was going to be my full-time occupation. And a couple of years later, it turned into my full-time occupation. So I've been doing this full-time for about three years now. I would say the last 10 years, if you'd have told me 10 years ago that I would be doing something other than ministry at a church and something in children's ministry, I'd have said, Dan, you're absolutely crazy. I don't believe that.
Which is why that it's probably the right thing, is because if we're doing adventure and we're doing the faith thing right, usually we end up in places we do.
Well, and then you find out that you actually really enjoy it. Like, I actually really do love the kids now, and that's was awesome. And then just seeing the impact and being able to support the staff and students and the people that we've just came in contact with, I absolutely love it.
All right, so let's back up and then we'll pull this thread through. When you have a residential building company and employees and contractors and subs and all those things, that's a different leadership style than volunteers, ministry. Like the grace and truth at which you get to communicate in those two camps is wildly different. And so talk about like, what was life like from a leadership perspective on the building thing, and then what changed as you kind of took this bridge into ministry?
I was thinking about this question, and of course, I would hope that I'm a better leader now than I was all those years ago. So I'm a little bit more eloquent and more thought out than I was in my mid-20s. I hope. I'm not saying that that's actually true. But in some aspects, when I first started, so I could do a lot of the work myself, but I met a painter, and he was a subcontractor. I worked around him, and he gave me some of the best advice ever. He said, Zach, get you some good subcontractors. Don't micromanage them and let them do the work. Like, you don't have to know everything, but you find some people that you trust. And then, this is even more important, or as important, pay them on time, and they will always come back and they will put you at the front of the line. And I thought that is excellent advice, because I know how much we enjoy as subcontractors being paid. So I lived by that. And really, as now minding the gap, our 3 core values is love, trust, and investment. And really, that I didn't have those 3 values at the forefront of my mind back in building houses. But as I look back on that, I really think that that would be the core values for Zack Nicholson Homes if I'd had the acumen to think those out, because it really is that trust factor. I'm finding someone that I trust, and then they can trust me to have their best interests at heart, that I'm going to pay them and we're going to have good communication. And then even the love thing, that I would have never said that I loved my contractors back then or anything like that, but actually I do. Like, love is to will the good of the other. And so I look at that, and I want those subcontractors to succeed, of course, because I want them to do a good job at my house. But at the same time, like, I want what's best for their business so they can continue to thrive and then serve each other. So I think that I wish that I'd have been a lot more eloquent and had these core values right at the heart of what we were doing back there. I guess they were part of it, just not on a document and on a website.
Sure. I am wonderful at what not to do. I know exactly how not to do almost everything. All the things. So I think we all would look back and want to take some of the stuff we know now to then. Okay, so if love is willing the good of the other, how does that manifest in reality? Like, neat, that's a nice fuzzy word that you put out. So if that's part of your core, how does that manifest in the actual world?
I think it is looking, first of all, outside of yourself, looking at the world around you. And of course, being a person of faith, the first commandment is love the Lord. And then second is love your neighbor as yourself. Well, how does that manifest? Like, if I'm truly trying to love God, there should be an element of loving my neighbor. And what does love mean? It's to will the good of the other. So how can I look at somebody else and think, what can I do to help them succeed, help them to thrive, help them to be successful? And we find, as we start to just look through the eyes of service, Jesus said that the greatest amongst you will be a servant. And God himself came to serve, not to be served. So if we can start to just incorporate that in our daily lives, and of course it's a daily grind, like, it's not always easy and it sounds rosy, just like you said. That's such a great concept. And I succeed on it about 10 or 15% of the time. But that's better than 5 years ago when it was 5% of the time. But you find that as you start to look at the needs of others, that your own problems, there's just a sense of gratitude that comes from that, and just being grateful for what you have. And of course, we all have our issues. But when we look around and see some of the struggles of other people, it's like, well, we really actually don't have it that bad. And like, let's try, what can we do to help these others survive or thrive and just feel loved and that sense of security?
So I'm going to make you unpack them all. So trust is next.
All right.
Big word, hard to create, easy to destroy. What's trust for you?
Trust basically comes from this. So in the schools that we were working in, there was a little bit of not resistance of a church partner coming in, but just a little bit of caution, not for the reasons that you might think that, oh, we don't want to proselytize and we don't want to spread like a certain message. It was actually that they had a lot of churches and different community partners. I don't want to blame the church or anything, but just churches specifically in this case, that would say that they would do something, would bring a lunch, or we're in this for the long haul. And then after a few months, a position would change and then they're not there anymore. And so one of the first things that we just came into it, and then we work in Title I school districts. So there's just a lot of things going on in these students and families' lives that are just out of their control, lots of chaos.
Yeah, what Title I is, not everybody is familiar with Title I.
Title I is in each school district. If it's a Title I district, that means that a certain, I think it's 60-70% of the students or the families in that district would qualify for free and reduced lunches, which is a certain percentage of the poverty line. Yeah. So in one of the schools that we actually, or the districts, Hickman Mills, it's 100% families qualify for free and reduced lunches. And so with that kind of just a lot of brokenness and a lot of mistrust in those areas, so one of the first things that we wanted to communicate, and it took time to develop this because they've heard it a million times, but it's like when we say that we're going to do something, we are going to do something. We are going to show up, whether we can bring 2 volunteers or 25 volunteers. If we said we're bringing Chick-fil-A on Tuesday, we're going to bring Chick-fil-A on Tuesday. If we're going to do a school beautification project on Saturday, we're going to be there. It might be tiny, it might be messy, but you can trust what we're saying. And so that's how I would unpack trust, that we want to be just people of our word. Like I said, it's not always amazing, but we're going to show up.
All right. And then investment. What flavor of that is it? How do you interpret investment for Minding the Gap?
And I would say I'd just back up also trust and investment, or love, trust, and investment, all 3 core values. Like I've kind of focused on the people that we work with, but even our staff and our volunteers, like this goes for them. Like we want what's best for our volunteers. We want them to trust us so that way when we're telling them to do something, they know that, hey, we can show up and there's going to be people there. And so then an investment is really just looking at people as something of value. And with an investment, typically that you put money into whatever like a stock or a bond or gold or whatever. Usually you don't see a great return in a week. Sometimes you do, but usually it is for the long haul. And so we look at, especially the students that we serve or even the staff, it's like we want to invest in you. This is not a one-time thing. We're not in it for a week, a month. We are in it for the long haul. So it's really helpful in some of the situations like a tutoring session or in our Bible club. Sometimes you think, these kids are coming after school for the Bible club, for instance, and they've been pent up in school all day. They are ready to just have some fun and let loose. And our people are not like trained teachers, most of them. So we are just surviving that hour in the classroom. But I encourage our team, and it's important that we have these eyes, that it doesn't really matter how that particular session went, because we showed up. These kids are building trust with us. We got through whatever part of the lesson, whether it's 5% or the whole thing. But it doesn't matter, because next week we're going to be here again. And next month, we're going to be here again. And now we've done this for 5 years. Next year, we're going to be here again, and we're going to keep showing up. And so having that long-term just vision and perspective of we're doing this to invest in the students, in the schools, or whatever place that we're serving at, we're in it for the long haul. So it's not just, it really helps you. We all love the moments where this is just the greatest day ever and so many things are happening right. But it helps when 75 or 80% of the time, it doesn't always go that way. But in those moments, it's an opportunity for growth. We're going to be better next time, and we're going to be back next week.
That's right. Yeah, commitment's the other word that pops in, like as you say that. So it's an investment, and it's a commitment that you have made, which is super powerful. So you've talked that you're bringing not only reading skills, but also a faith thing. I was impressed, as I've heard you speak at various times, and also the public school has shown up, and I think people are confused about what you can and can't do in school, and then how schools actually react when you want to bring something. So how's your relationship with the public school, and how has that blossomed?
Well, that was my thoughts exactly when I heard about this little church doing a Bible club in a public school. I was exact same thing. And sometimes I just step back now and I'm like, how are we doing this? Like, this is like, the Lord is doing something amazing here. But to answer your question, it really went going back to when I happened to have to go to the Grandview Middle School because my boss sent me to go in with the attitude, look, we don't have an agenda. I don't know why I'm here. What can we do to serve you? And so that just brought down barriers immediately. And then going back to that investment piece and that trust piece, just continuing, okay, hey, you guys want to do like an incentive party? Okay, well, we could provide ice cream. Parent-teacher conferences. All right, well, we can bring drinks. Maybe you can do a meal sometimes, maybe drinks, but we'll do something. So going in as servants, going back to that service thing that Jesus calls us to be servant, as we showed that we cared, and then especially recruiting tutors and mentors to help the students in very practical ways that is beneficial to the schools too, because every school wants their students to have better achievement scores. Every school wants their students to be at school in attendance so that way they can actually learn. So we just really tried to come around them and fill those felt needs. And then from that place, as they begin to see us, and now with Minding the Gap, with our little Minding the Gap t-shirts, when people see that logo now, it's like, well, these people are trustworthy. They show up when they say they're going to show up. They truly love us. And now from that place, we also have this thing called 180 Club, a Bible club. And honestly, in the 5 years that we've done this, we've never received any pushback from principals, from teachers about the Bible club. And it's become such a thing in these schools that students will actually talk about their faith in the classroom. And it gives opportunity for teachers to talk about their faith as well. Because if the students bring it up, like there is no like laws against talking about Jesus in schools. And that was something that was a misperception on my part going into it, because you hear on the news and just different stories and my misperceptions. They're just completely anti-God and they want to keep it out of the schools. Yeah. But I found that if you go in there from the ground up, that it's actually, there's a lot of believers in the schools that want to, like most of those believing teachers in public schools I found see themselves as missionaries in the public schools, just trying to do good. Yeah. And so I've had multiple testimonies from teachers talking about that they're able to pray with some of their students because like, well, did you learn that in 180 Club? You're not being kind to your neighbor and you need to tell them that you're sorry. Like let's pray and ask God to help us. And so I would say that just that element of going in and being a servant, showing that you care, opens the door for ministry opportunities rather than the other way around where we're coming in guns a-blazing. We are going to win this place for the kingdom of God and you sinners need to repent. Kind of funny, but I know that used to be my attitude. But going in the opposite way, we've had no resistance. In fact, on our board of directors, we have two principals in the schools that we serve. Yeah. That is our board of directors because they believe so much in what we're doing. And it's really just a beautiful partnership of just how faith and church and ministry and even businesses can come around a public school and community and just really have that synergy there.
So I am not only a believer in what you do, I'm a volunteer.
Yes.
And so, honestly, I was a little apprehensive. My children, none of them are in grade school anymore. It's been a while since I've walked into where the kids, go up to your knees or your thighs. And I've had Aiden and Caden. I only get kids that rhyme, so I'm excited for Hayden or Braden next year or whoever that would be. 5th grade and a 2nd grader. And it's literally the best 30 to 45 minutes. It's funny when it's not your own child, how much patience and kindness you have, which actually makes me a better dad. When I come home, I'm like, ooh, if I can do that for other people's children, maybe there's some of that I can take for my own children and bring home. To your point, the love, trust, and investment and commitment, like those are easy to say and hard to do because we all have schedules. And yet that return on investment that I've been getting is pretty cool. And so in year 2, I now have relationships with staff that I didn't know was going to happen. Like you come in, you see your kid, you go home, and yet all of a sudden you start to see same teachers and same admin staff in the front office. It's been super powerful for me. And so I appreciate you coming and presenting that opportunity for us to live into the values that you've already done. Okay, so that's the advertisement. What are your challenges? Like what's the big things that are holding you back from impacting more people today?
I would say that just like every other nonprofit leader that you hear from, they always need more money and more volunteers. Are you shocked by that? Have you ever heard that before? And I would say that, of course, with more resources, more money, you can do more good. But just looking over our history, like the Lord really does bring the right people at the right time and the right resources whenever you're ready for it. And so that has always been there. That's always a need. So we always let people know, hey, we can always use more money. If you want to donate, come be a part of it. But to me, the bigger one is the volunteer base. Because if we don't have volunteers, if we don't have people like you that are coming and sitting with the student for 45 minutes or an hour every week, or we don't have people coming to teach the Bible and showing up for a 180 club. We don't have an organization. Like, we can buy Chick-fil-A lunches. That's great. But there's not really that investment, that interaction, like you said, with the teachers, with the students, getting into the lives of the families. There wouldn't be that aspect of it. And so I would say that that's the biggest challenge, is getting volunteers. And with as large as we're starting to get, and we go into more and more schools, it's just always going to be a challenge to get people. And it's not that people don't want to do it. They might be a little apprehensive, like yourself, like I was. But once you get in there, it's like, this is amazing. Even our best intentions, Bible Club is very specific, 3:30 to 5:30. If you're not free on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday from 3:30 to 5:30, you can't serve in Bible Club. So obviously that eliminates 80% of the adult population out there. And same thing with tutoring and mentoring. That's a little more flexible, anytime Monday through Friday, if you have a free hour to go serve. Well, that sounds pretty easy, but our schedules, it's like, wait, I'm working, and if I went over my lunch break, I might not have time to get there. And so though people want to serve and have that desire, that is the biggest challenge, is because of the time commitment and the time frames that it has to be. Because it can't be, just show up on Tuesday night at 7. We do have some events on Tuesday night at 7, but it's not those core pieces of what we do. So I think that that is, to me, the biggest challenge, that we're constantly trying to get volunteers and get them deployed, and then schedules will change. So I think that that is the biggest challenge that we face.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm a Wednesday lunchish. Her teacher is. I was like, okay, how wide is this gap? Because things don't always work, and yet once it's in your schedule. If we're all I'm ruled by my calendar. I think most of us are. If it's in the calendar, man, that thing happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is leadership from like subs different than volunteers? Because subs you hand a check to at the end of the week. Probably.
That's a very big point right there.
Volunteers, not so not so much. It's a difference. But
you need to be here, and why aren't you here?
Yeah. So how's that different for you, and how do you adjust to that?
I would say that it is a little bit of a challenge, because I would treat both the same way. Like, hey, here's kind of the expectations we would love for you to have. But I definitely have a heck of a lot more grace for our volunteer team, that I almost never would say, hey, you made a commitment, you really need to be there. We encourage them, but we usually tell people that on the front end. Like, if you can make it 75 to 80% of the time, like that's what we're looking for. We understand life happens. But I find it really hard when people have life circumstances, they have to pick up a sick kid from school, now they can't come to Bible Club. Or, just life circumstances, they're going on vacation. Since I am not paying you, there's just an element that makes things a little bit different dynamic when money is exchanging hands than volunteerism. So I would say that just to try and be positive, try and encourage, because most of the people that serve with us want to be there. So there's not an element of they're not like 16-year-olds that are just, I'm not going today. There's something funner to do. I'm going to go skateboarding. So there's legitimate reasons why that people can't come. So I would say that the element of transactional changing of money, it's easier to hold people accountable when there is money on the line rather than the volunteerism, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I find personally I have to have a deeper why, in order to say no to other things. I need a deeper why to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the big thing for me, and I think a lot of leaders, when they look at nonprofits, usually the first thing we think about is the board, especially if there's some dollars of a certain size exchanging hands. And what I found was I became less and less awesome at the board work. And I needed to go get back into just serving on the front lines. I think the lines do for one, which you wish you could do for all. And it was time to go do for one.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you're out there, your board work is great. Thank you for all the board stuff you've done. If it's been a minute since you've actually been on the front lines, it's time to get back out and go serve some individual somewhere, whether, it doesn't have to be minding the gap. But I think you learn a lot about leadership when you go back and you do the frontline work. So that's my That's my take. And that's been my journey over the last 3 or 5 years, is just getting off all the circles of people talking about stuff. Not that that's not important work, right? You need that and it's got to be there. And there's something cool about sitting knee to knee with another kid going through sight words,
Yeah.
Just super, super simple. Okay. So give us so I'll ask this kind of last question, except it's sort of flipped for you. So Acumen is this business focused organization. We're a people of performance, profit, and excellence, and yet we are faith infused. So we're somewhere on the Jesus journey, and we're all just trying to figure out how we walk beside him. How do you take it on the opposite way? You're very faith forward, and that's at the core, and yet you have all this business stuff you need to do. So how do you pull it the other way? Because usually we're trying to bring more of our faith to work. And how are you bringing your work to faith?
I would say I have discovered this amazing prayer. So it's important to have a deep prayer life, and it's help.
Just one word, just help.
Yes, it's extremely deep. It's extremely meaningful. And yes, so that is universal. So that is my nugget for literally everybody. I think that there's an element of, because everybody in the business world, ministry and business, I used to see them as kind of separate, but really they're one and the same thing. It's God's calling on each individual's life. Are you called to be an accountant, a pastor, a home builder? And then even if you're called to be that at this season, as my journey, maybe you're going to be something else some other time. So we take that faith journey with us. We're going to be, hopefully, we're the same person on Sundays and during the week. But I would say that, just cultivating that prayer life. And it's not where we're spending 30 minutes. Of course, we want a good quiet time in the morning. I'm not saying anything about that, but we all know that sometimes we don't always keep to that. But just recognizing that the Lord's eyes are really always upon us. And most Christians, I would say 100% of them at the end of the day want to be faithful to the Lord. The Holy Spirit inside of us wants to be faithful. So I would say just recognizing those two simple truths, and that God loves me. There's a verse in Song of Solomon that talks about the bride overcame him, the groom, with one glance of her eye. Some people interpret that as the Jesus and the church. And so I just look at that verse and I take that as you know what, in my busy times when I'm just stressed out about different things, I've got a lot going on, the fact that if we just take 20 seconds, pause what we're doing and just say, Lord, recognizing the Lord. And that's what that verse is saying, that you overcome me with one glance of your eye. So the Lord is I understand you're in your mess. I understand your stress. But when we take that moment of faith, because without faith, it's impossible to please God, right? That moment is right there that, Lord, I believe you. I'm going through this, but I just want to take a moment to acknowledge your presence. Thank you for just being with me. Thank you for your love. Lord, help in this situation, and then go about whatever task you are. Because at the end of the day, we are in the world. We have things to do. We are in a crazy American busy life, and that's just our culture, and that's the way it is. But that's how I would say that hopefully we're wanting to please the Lord, all of us, and just taking those moments, 20 seconds throughout your day, hopefully a couple of times a day, just to acknowledge. And you'd be surprised, just sometimes just ideas will pop into your head, or just a quick infusion of peace, or wow, it's not that bad. I'm grateful. It could be so much worse right now. That's usually where my mind goes to. I could be this is what I think. This is kind of funny. Because I used to lay brick before I did the home building. And so when my days get stressful, I think I could be on a job site in 103-degree weather with sand blowing in my eyes, laying brick, breaking my back, and I am getting ready to go into an air-conditioned school and bringing Chick-fil-A to these teachers, and life is really not that bad. And you can always find something to be grateful for. So that's my sermon for today.
That's well said. Well said. Okay, so all sorts of fun nuggets today. I think the first one would be, not only are your values for how you serve with volunteers, so it's internal, but it's also external of what are you bringing to what you would think of as your customers, right? Those you serve. Your values of love, trust, and investment are powerful, and especially because they're specific, tied towards the needs and the problems that you saw that the people that you serve needed to see. And so it's pretty easy to live out those values, because you're we know what it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, just a simple prayer, help.
Yes.
We don't need fancy words, driving down the road, you can just say help.
I am a very simple person, as you can see. 3 words for your 3 core values. Help me.
I think all of us are prone to creating complexity everywhere. So simplicity sounds like a fantastic thing. Okay, Zack, where can we learn more about you and Minding the Gap?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, mindinggaps.org, mindinggaps.org. Sometimes we didn't get Minding the Gap because that was already taken.com.
That's right. Of course.
That's a little confusing for people. So it's mindinggaps.org. And then we also have Facebook and Instagram. So that's the best way to connect with us. And if you're interested in volunteering, there's a page on there to just give us your information. We'll get you plugged in. We also do an every other month Minding the Gap Connect, where we bring everybody that's at least even interested or can serve every once in a while or serve on a regular basis, an opportunity for us to come together, have a little bit of food on a Sunday afternoon and hear stories and get connected. And then that way, if people aren't able to serve in that particular moment but are interested, they still feel connected to what's happening. And then in a minute, their schedule shifts. They're able to serve and they still feel like a part of the team, or maybe they're shifting out, but it's just an opportunity for them to come and just still feel part of the team. So I would love to invite people to that as well, but all that information's on the website and on our Facebook pages.
Awesome. We'll put it in the show notes, of course. And if you want a firsthand, just call me and I'll tell you, and then we can go to Sunday together. That's what we'll do.
Taste and see.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So appreciate it, man. Hey, if you're interested in becoming a member of Acumen, go to acumenimpact.com and click on the apply button. Or if you'd like to learn more, we have a ton of great content just like this on our resources tab. Okay, Zack, final question. We started with hockey. Let's end with hockey. Did you guys get up early to watch gold medal USA, Canada?
So I have boys that play hockey. So I was actually in a rink watching my son play his hockey game, but I had my phone.
Oh, you were watching?
And then on the breaks, I would run outside or run out to the lobby. And of course, it was on their big screens. So I absolutely watched it. So it was quite amazing. But I have a confession. Can I make a confession? Let's go to Canada. So I have to explain it because it was like, this is so hard because I love America. I want us to win. But my 3 favorite players in the NHL all play on a Canadian team. David got beat in the Stanley Cup the last 2 years. Like, he's probably the greatest player since Gretzky, but he's not won an NHL championship or a gold medal. And so it's just like, he has to win something. But I love America. Which should I pull for? So it was 51 Canada, 49 America. So I had divided loyalties, and I'm sorry.
That's funny. It's not unlike World Cup, like soccer that's coming. It's like you have your favorite players on your teams, and then their countries come, and you're a little conflicted.
Exactly. So that's how I felt. I made it.
We'll allow it. Zack, man, thank you. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to helping you get more people to serve.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for having me on your podcast here, and thank you.